Hey y'all, hi. Okay, so kind of a long time ago, actually, I got an interesting comment that I have kept thinking about. It was from someone asking me to talk about different design elements in clothing and how to think about them as part of wardrobe building. So that's what I'm going to do today. Finally, I'm talking about these design elements, and each one of the elements is a lens through which you can look at your clothes when you're trying to decide what to wear. But I actually think that they can be particularly useful when you're trying to decide what to buy, especially when it comes to avoiding purchases that won't actually end up going with your style and that you will regret later. I had a great time putting this video together. It really made me think. I hope you'll subscribe if you're not subscribed. I hope you check out my book. I hope you'll check out my Patreon page and the podcast that we host there, my husband and I, and let us now get right into the meat of the video. So design element number 1. Texture. Texture. I love it so much. When you are assessing a garment to buy or to wear on any given day, is it flat or does it add dimension? Does it have dimension? Texture is tactile, but it's also visual. You could wear all black and look actually totally awkward and like there's no intelligent hand behind your clothing choices. Or you can wear all black and actually have pretty much the same silhouettes of all of the pieces of clothing and look totally dripped down because there is visual texture to the garments and they play off of each other. Sometimes you find a good garment in a shop. It checks all of your boxes in theory and you have it and you think, I should buy this. I should want to buy this. It fits. It's my color. It's a good choice in theory. It makes sense on paper and it's exactly what I need or what I thought I needed, but it just doesn't have that spark and you don't know why. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just not speaking to you. It could be because it has no texture or it has an uninspiring texture. It won't add dimension to any of your outfits or ground them in anything texturally satisfying. So thinking through that lens, I think, can really help in that moment when you're about to convince yourself to buy something that is actually not exciting you. It can give you a reason to put it back down and not get it. And thinking through the lens of texture can also really help you make your outfits more dynamic when you're putting clothes on, like the clothes that you already own. And speaking of dimension and texture in outfits, I am delighted to be sponsored by Songmont today. Songmont is an accessories brand that makes these thoughtfully designed bags. I have to say, I've been working with Songmont for a whole year, and I've actually noticed that from interacting with some of their bags, I've learned to appreciate the art of handbag design more. It's like the silhouettes and the outstanding details are teaching me what makes a great bag great. Like the Gather bag, which I've shown you before. This is it. As always, it has my stuff in it, and I've added the charms. We'll talk about them in a minute. It wasn't something that I thought that I was looking for, silhouette-wise, design-wise, but it immediately became one of my most frequently carried bags, and it made it into the top 5 in my handbag collection video recently. I'll link that video. It is so easy to use, both practically and aesthetically, right? It elevates any outfit without being fussy or precious. The craftsmanship is exquisite and the materials are premium. Like all of the hardware is fade resistant and electroplated stainless steel, and you can really tell. My experience with Songmont is that they perfectly fuse beauty with function, which is what one looks for in a handbag, right? Because ultimately it's a tool. Today, I want to shine a light on their new Your collection, which is just stunning. The Your duffel is such a lovely take on a daily tote bag. It has that slightly rugged quality that we're seeing on the rise in fashion right now, but it's still polished enough to take to most workplaces. And it's just wildly practical. It fits a 13-inch laptop. It has this small pocket in the front for easy access to frequently used items. It has a comfortably long strap drop, which is really important to me. The leather, you can just tell that it has been specially selected to age beautifully. Just like the Gather bag, I find this bag to be so tasteful, but without ever being uncomfortably fancy. The Toast bag takes those rugged yet soft qualities of the Your collection and translates them into a pillowy baguette bag, which is surprisingly spacious, like shockingly. So comfortable on the arm. Again, the long strap drop. And gosh, this glowy pale blue-gray, it's called Celeste. This color really gets me where I live. These 2 bags from the Your collection really showcase the spectrum of Songmont. Some of their bags are more utilitarian, but they never forfeit beauty. And some of the bags are more sculptural and high design, but they never forfeit practicality. And I have to say, there's a kind of levity to the aesthetics of the brand, with the charms for personalization, the focus on travel, and like bags that will travel well and improve as they are broken in. In so many ways, it's like a brand after my own heart. And I'm so grateful once again to be working with them. So let's talk about silhouette, an incredibly important design element in a handbag for sure, but also a really impactful design element in pieces of clothing that I think sometimes we become a little bit desensitized to. Like, we're not really realizing what a spectrum of silhouette there can be for any given garment, like any given button-up shirt or any given coat. And it's interesting. One way to look at silhouette forward shopping, and I think that this is what a lot of people do, like a lot of people already do, is to know what silhouette looks good on you and like look for those. Like, you have a preconceived idea of what your proper silhouettes are and you're just scanning only for that. I find that kind of challenging, actually. I think you're setting yourself up for a hard time if you do that. And maybe I also find it kind of a backwards way to go about things, because it's harder to look for a specific thing in a world full of unexpected things than it is to be open to the unexpectedly wonderful. What I find more useful, like no less practical actually, but much more useful, is to be aware of how conventional the silhouettes are at any given shop by any given designer. Like, if you're in J. Crew, for example, even the least conventional of their silhouettes is going to be more normcore than like the silhouette of the same type of item at COS. And if you're at COS, even their basic pants, their most basic bread and butter pair of pants, is going to have an artistic flair that you probably won't ever find at J. Crew. I'm not saying that one of these is better than the other, or that it's either or. Like, maybe you get your pants at COS and your shirts at J. Crew. I think a lot of people mix and match in that way across like levels of conventionality of silhouette. What I'm saying is that if you know what the baseline is, you can navigate the situation better. And again, if you're shopping and you're stuck, you're like, this sweater is made from merino wool. That's what I wanted. And it's dark green and it's a mock neck. That's exactly what I was looking for. Why isn't it singing for me? Like, why isn't it making me feel the way that I thought that garment would make me feel when I found it? It could be because you're at J. Crew, but you're someone with a more artistic vibe and the silhouette is just more conventional than the one that you actually want, or vice versa, right? Or vice versa. Now, of course, you can also use this as a balancing tactic when you're getting dressed. So if you do have a mix of kind of more conventional and less conventional silhouettes in your wardrobe, and you put on like too many of the unconventional garments, unconventional silhouettes all at once, you might look in the mirror and be like, I'm a clown. I'm a parody of myself. You know what I mean? And in that case, maybe you just need to switch out one of the garments for something in a slightly more conventional silhouette, or vice versa. Okay, let's talk about color. Much has been said about color. There is much to be said. I have said much. I once made all the soft summers mad by besmirching teal. Well, actually by appearing to besmirch teal. I did not actually, let us be clear, I've never besmirched teal on camera. It was lackluster teal polyester specifically that I was besmirching. In the world of fabrics, there's teal and then there's teal, my friends. And I've always meant to go back and clarify my stance in that video in another video, but that's going to take like a whole other video. We'll get there. I'll make part of the point here by just saying this. When you look at a garment, don't just register the color that it is as an idea, but actually look at the exact way that this exact fabric executes the color. Look with your eyes, not with your brain, at color. Like, say you love wearing bright blue. Some bright blue fabrics are basically vibrating into another plane of existence with their color. And some bright blue fabrics that are the exact same color, like literally the same Pantone chip color, simply are not vibrating into another plane of existence. In fact, some of them are frankly blah, because the material is just that. It's material. It exists physically, and the way that it translates color. It's like a fact of material reality. And that's what you have to actually look at. When it comes to color, look with your eyes and not with your preconceived notions about color and like what colors you like and what colors look good on you. You see what I'm saying? Now, of course, this can be helpful when you're shopping, right? Don't buy something green just because you know that you look good in green if that garment's green is not singing to you green, 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 1,000 times green. I've said what I needed to say about color in this video only. We will return to the topic, but I hope I provided you a slightly different lens through which to view color, especially when you're building your wardrobe. Okay, so we've covered some basics, texture, silhouette, color. Let's move on to some slightly more esoteric design elements, you could say. I want to talk about what I think of as fussiness. I hope that I can adequately communicate this and I won't make a bunch of people mad like I did before with teal. There's something that I think about a lot when it comes to clothing layers and also design details and embellishments on clothing. And that is this. Everything in fashion, like every thread of every garment, can be separated into one of two categories: physical material that is serving a practical purpose and physical material that is just there for looks. Now, it's not either or, because very often the physical material that's serving a practical purpose in a garment also looks good. Like a good choice about its looks has also been made, but the fact that it looks good doesn't cancel out the fact that it's serving a practical purpose. Like a really pretty chunky wool sweater that has a design knitted into it, that is both totally practical and totally beautiful. And it doesn't have to have the design, but the material that's making up the design, those aren't extraneous materials, right? They are all still serving practical purpose. So it's not either or, but some garments and accessories have parts, bits, that aren't actually doing anything and that aren't part of the core shape of the item, which is serving a practical purpose and like covering your skin and or keeping you warm. And there are like these bits that aren't contributing anything to that group project. So if that really pretty chunky wool sweater with the knitted design also has a huge crocheted like 3-dimensional flower on it, that part, I'm talking about that part. And as with everything, I'm not saying that one of these is good and one of these is bad at all. It's just another arena in which you can take a step back, figure out what your preference is, and then use your knowledge of that preference to hone your personal style. And honing your personal style doesn't necessarily mean only ever choosing one or the other, but like navigating the waters of this design quality intentionally and skillfully. So I think it helps to know which of these two modes is the most attractive to you, but it also is a good idea to be able to borrow from the other one sometimes as a way of making your personal style more dynamic. Personally, I'm like a great example of this, if I do say so myself. I find myself very resistant to non-meaningful elements in clothing. I do mess with charming details every once in a while, but I'm much more likely to bond with a garment for the long haul if its structure has a sort of simplicity of purpose, but within that purpose, like in the way that the garment acts on its purpose, special and unusual choices have been made. That's like the recipe for me to really love something. Extra lovely materials, rich colors, unusual silhouettes, but all of them contributing to the core purpose. Now, I wasn't always like this, as you may remember, but these days when a garment has bells and whistles beyond that core, like bells and whistles that aren't serving a practical purpose at all, or just aren't building blocks of the practical part of it, I usually feel less drawn to it. Now, an exception for me, there are some exceptions. Jewelry, I feel really differently about jewelry. And I think it might be because it only has one purpose, which is adornment. So in that way, it's like sort of a funny logic, but it's like the jewelry isn't doing anything other than adorning the skin and it's directly on the skin. So in that way, it is fulfilling its purpose very purely. You know, it only has one job and it is doing that one job purely. It's not like doing its job and then doing a whole bunch of other stuff too. I have found myself, in spite of myself, unexpectedly charmed, do you see what I did there? By the charms on the Songmont bags. Like I didn't think I would be into it. And then, you know, they sent a couple charms. I put them straight onto my gather bag and I just love it. It's like jewelry for the bag. I thought it wasn't my thing, but now I'm into it. And I think it's because it kind of takes this, a little bit of seriousness away away from the super intense silhouette forward dressing that is what I tend to do and what I do most of the time. So balance is good, but I feel like you have to assess, know yourself, and understand what it is you're dealing with each individual garment, and understand how you're placing it into the setting of your own preference and like the backdrop of your own tendencies in order to tinker delicately with that balance. Because for some people, embellishment is the best thing about fashion, and personal style lives entirely within the extraneous elements on top of the core practical aspects of clothing. Like getting dressed is always, every day, a chance to adorn oneself with delightful and unnecessary baubles and embellishments and extraneous accessories made more delightful by the fact that they are not practical. And that is just as valid and just as fashion. But if you aren't really seeing it this way, and you have like a mix of the two in your wardrobe, and you're struggling to combine garments, like you're struggling to sort of put together outfits that feel like they're balanced for you, it might be because you're not thinking about this, or you might be getting yourself into situations where you accidentally buy something that you don't end up liking, and it's because you weren't really thinking about whether its level of fussiness was aligned with the setting, like the backdrop of your preferences and the wardrobe that you already have. I actually feel like there's more to say about this. There's like a lot more to say about fussiness, but it might merit its own video. So for today, I'm going to let that suffice, but maybe we'll come back to this. And then the last design element today is fluidity. I'm kind of running out of steam, but I did want to mention this. It's interesting because it interacts heavily with all of the rest of them. So there's a spectrum from stiffness to fluidity of fabric, essentially, that interacts aggressively with silhouette and texture, but I think can be assessed separately from them and can kind of shed light on them. So for some people, this is a vibes thing. Like you might identify that you are like a loose, flowy type of person and you feel more comfortable in fluid fabrics. Or it might not even be that deep. Like you might just find that flowy clothes suit you better. And you might vaguely think that it's because of your shape or your face or your personality, or vice versa with stiff and structured clothing and, maybe tailored clothing. But the reason that I wanted to bring this up is that I feel like this concept interacts with the other design elements in a way that is more nuanced than it might initially seem. So I'll give myself as an example. I do think that I feel and look better when there's like a loose aspect to my clothing, an artistic vibe, a free spirit vibe, a movement vibe, To me, that is about silhouette. It's like the opposite of crisp tailoring and conventional shapes. But I also have a strong preference for beefy, firm fabrics instead of like thin, loose, drapey fabrics. I like stiffness and grit in my fabrics. So I have, for example, a lot of bulky, oversized sweaters that are sort of artistic and fluid in their shape, but you could say strong and assertive in their fabrics. So we're starting to get a little bit into the weeds of individuality here, right? And see how all of these design elements can play off of each other and like refract through each other to get you to something really quite personalized, like really quite unique. And that's why we call it personal style. So I'll leave you with this, right? I think it's worth considering whether you like more structured or flowier fabrics, like which one of those you feel best in, which one of those you like to touch the best, and then really think about how that preference manifests in the realm of texture, in the realm of silhouette, in the realm of color, and in the realm of fussiness, and kind of see the way that it slightly redefines all of those other design elements for you. All right, that is all I've got today. This was an unexpected joy. Thank you to the original commenter, if you even remember who you are. It was a long time ago and I've sort of paraphrased your comment, but I love talking about this stuff. I'm excited to read in the comments on this video where it might be taking some of you. So please comment if you feel like it, if anything has sprung to mind. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to, and don't forget to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.